Yes, Aaron Judge is very good at baseball.
Yeah.
He is killing everybody. He is hitting everything he is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God, because without him, this team is not 15-10 and in first place in the AL East.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hitting for the Cycle, episode 67. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, alongside my co-host, Ryan Touhey. Ryan, we are back after going MIA for about a week. So how are you doing, my friend? And it's good to be back to normal schedule.
Very good to be back and joining you on another episode of Hitting for the Cycle. I am doing just fine, and the weather is really feeling like spring, 60s and 70s on a daily basis. And that definitely puts me in a better mood than in the fall and the winter. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, we're finally getting more consistent weather, which it just feels amazing for, because typically in April, it's like, early on, you have the day that's like great in 75, and then the next day it's like the high of like low 40s. It's typical New England weather. I'm not surprised about it, but it just gets so constantly annoying. So I work outside a lot, so it actually helps me a lot to kind of do my job. So yeah, finally feels good for sure. But also what feels good for sure is for you guys to make sure that you guys are following us on all of our socials. So obviously right down here on the ticker down bar below, Hitting for the Cycle, HFCTCETB. Also make sure to subscribe to Empty the Bench Network on YouTube, and also follow us at our X or Twitter. I still call it Twitter, at Ryan at R2E97, and also follow me at Ben Kruse 144. Also follow us at Hitting for the Cycle at HFTCETB. Also make sure to follow us on youtube.com/ETB network. Make sure if you guys, don't want to see overall our faces, you guys can see us wherever you guys want to get your podcast on Hitting for the Cycle. And then Hitting for the Cycle is always presented by our friends over at Playback. All right, Ryan, let's get started here. And we are going to kick it over to you, the doctor, specifically a part of the show. I know we've obviously had to kind of start with our episodes some more of our unfortunate news, specifically that has been more serious stuff. This is kind of more stuff specifically that is on the doctor side, so it's definitely not as bad specifically for the stuff compared to what we've had to talk about in the past. It still sucks, but it's definitely stuff that we could definitely for sure talk about without feeling completely sad and just somber this whole entire time. So we have two specific things that we want to get into. They're going to be kind of combined. So the first is going to be Blake Snell being shut down and needing further imaging on his elbow, and then Atlanta Braves star and ace Spencer Strider going back on the IL after originally starting the season on the IL with the hamstring strain. So really just two unfortunate injuries from both specific pitchers. In terms of the Dodgers one with Blake Snell, we talked about specifically the Dodgers rotation kind of coming into the season, Ryan, and how great it looks on paper, but they just have so much injury risk specifically when you take a look at it. So I know Blake Snell kind of going down. It's not the end all be all in terms of kind of how I look at the Dodgers as of right now. But if it kind of comes to more than a couple of guys, you kind of be a little bit concerned specifically, even though that their team is just that loaded. I feel if, Blake Snell was on a team like the Nationals, it feels like the Anchor A's or something like that, it'd be a lot more severe. I mean, it still sucks for them, but it's like, I feel, for him to take his time. I know kind of the start of the season for Blake Snell wasn't great. He hasn't been kind of looked at either as like a first half pitcher. He's been a lot better in terms of as a second half pitcher. You just kind of look at his stats from like the last couple of years. So my reaction to you is, how do you feel about this? I mean, obviously it sucks. And do you feel like that this could be potentially season ending?
Well, I think it's still a little early to tell whether or not this is going to be a catastrophic injury that leads to Snell missing the rest of the season. I'm reading this article off CBS Sports. This is by Mike Exessa. So Blake Snell has been shut down since April 6th with shoulder inflammation, and he did not feel good after he was playing catch during his rehab on Tuesday, and he's going to be re-examined when the Dodgers return home from their road trip That was according to Dodgers manager Dave Roberts. And Snell has only made 2 starts with the Dodgers this season. And, like you mentioned, they weren't anything spectacular. He has allowed 7 runs. Two of them were earned in just 9 innings of work. And he's also walked 8 and he has struck out 4. And his fastball velocity was also a little slower than it typically is, about a mile per hour slower than what it typically is. And once he was shut down, he went in for an MRI, and those results came back clean. And, him and the Dodgers were hopeful that this would only be a short stint on the IL, maybe a few weeks at most. However, now he's got this discomfort going on and this shoulder inflammation. So there's a little reason to be concerned here. Obviously, when you hear something like that, signs point to what. And, Snell has dealt with injury history in the past. He only made 20 starts with the Giants last year. Most of it was because of groin injuries and the fact that he took so long to sign. But, for the Dodgers, they're just fortunate that they're stacked. Most teams would not be able to survive with the amount of pitching injuries, specifically, the Dodgers have been dealing with for the past 2 seasons. And with Snell going down, I'm just going to quickly review to you who the Dodgers have been losing or who they have lost due to injuries. So you can add Snell to this list, but obviously Ohtani, because he's still recovering from Tommy John surgery. Clayton Kershaw has been dealing with knee injuries and toe injuries and certain surgeries. Tony Gonsolin was out with a back issue. Gavin Stone is missing all of 2025 with shoulder surgery. Emmett Sheehan, he's missing most of this season because of Tommy John. River Ryan, he's missing 2025 because of Tommy John. And Kyle Hurt, he's missing 2025 because of Tommy John. Not to mention Tyler Glasnow's also had Tommy John surgery in the past, and he's had a long history of injuries. So the Dodgers already have used 8 different starting pitchers this season. 8. And as of the day this is recording, it is April 24th. So they are already using so many different starting pitchers. And the 8 starting pitchers that they've used this season, that's only second in Major League Baseball behind the Milwaukee Brewers, who have just been completely depleted in the pitching department. So, Snell obviously signed that big contract with the Dodgers this offseason. He's obviously won 2 Cy Youngs in the past. So, we'll see what happens. It really just depends on what this new MRI shows with Snell. If you're a Dodger fan, if you're Snell, and if you're the Dodgers, you're just hoping this doesn't show any further damage. At most, it just shows maybe a little more swelling, and you may just need a few more weeks to recuperate. But, yeah, it's definitely cause to be concerned. The Dodgers are paying Snell a boatload of money to be a stable force in that rotation. So we'll see what happens, but there's definitely reason for fans and the Dodgers to be concerned, I think. So we'll see. It just depends on what the MRI shows.
Yeah, and just with the Dodgers, like you mentioned, right? They've dealt with a ton of injuries. It's dealt with a lot of the younger pitchers specifically. River Ryan was looked at as one of their top guys. Gavin Stone was looked at as one of their top guys. Emmett Sheehan, obviously, too. But, you look at what the Dodgers are doing right now, pitching-wise. Shohei Ohtani hasn't even had a pitch yet. So that just kind of comes to show that the Dodgers should still be okay. And I wouldn't risk trying to rush Snell back if you don't have to. I think hopefully, if anything, that the Dodgers could be able to probably survive this overall stretch without him. But yeah, it just takes a massive toll. Maybe it could be so-called their trade deadline acquisition arm to kind of get back, because I know that it's kind of a lot of cliche with a lot of guys that get hurt, is to get a guy specifically as their trade deadline piece guy back, kind of more in-house than go outside of house. So, yeah, hopefully Blake Snell is going to be okay because the Dodgers, I think, for the second half stretch, will definitely want to have him, especially given his track record, pitching-wise stats in the second half. All right, so we're going to get into the other guy specifically that is currently down. And this is somebody in Spencer Strider who legitimately came in and made his season debut. I think it was against the Blue Jays, Ryan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it was against them.
But he pitched, I think, all right. I think he went, I think it was 4 or 5 innings. He didn't really obviously go deep into the outing, but typically when you come off of injury, Most of the time than not, pitchers typically don't try to lengthen their overall outings. For instance, Brian Bay just came back for the Red Sox this week. Went 5 innings, wasn't bad. I'll talk more about Bay later on the show, but kind of a similar type of situation with Strider. This is coming from MLB.com article right here. Spencer Strider on April 16th talked about his overall debut, and he pretty much said that he got some encouraging news from his MRI, saying he's not dealing with a significant right hamstring. But 1 week after completing his year-long recovery from elbow surgery, the Braves pitcher has now been out now with a second injury. He said, "It sucks. I have done absolutely nothing to help this team and this organization for the past year. I finally get to a point where I can earn my paycheck and help us win games. And now I'm back on the table where they wave machines over me," whatever that means. So, we talked about the Braves, Ryan, and I know that obviously they've gone out to a very, very tough start to start the year. And I told myself specifically where, they're without Spencer Strider, they're without Ronald Acuna Jr. We'll talk about Ronald Acuna Jr. on something else this week, which I hope you guys will get a chance to watch. But yeah, the Braves, we talked about them last year, Ryan. They had a ton of injuries specifically that kind of held them back in terms of where they wanted to be. They obviously played a little bit better as of late, but they're still not, kind of clicking themselves right now. Just if Spencer Strider, just can't stay healthy, it's just really hard to kind of see in terms of where the Braves want to be. Kind of catching back specifically back into this overall, race and stuff like that. But it is really, really tough to see for Strider. I mean, the guy who literally just came back, had his MLB debut, within a couple days ago, and then a second injury basically popped in here. So just very unfortunate stuff. And, like I said with Snell, I hope that Strider's okay.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. This guy can't catch a break. Like you mentioned, he comes back, busts his tail off after recovering from Tommy John surgery, and then he comes back, makes his first start in well over a year against the Blue Jays, and goes 5 innings and strikes out 5. But here he is right back where he started on the injured list after just one freaking start back. So it really sucks. You feel for Spencer Strider. He loves to compete, and he works hard, and he takes pride in that. And it's definitely a tough blow for the Braves. I mean, fortunately, this is not a significant hamstring strain, so he shouldn't be on the injured list for too long. But regardless, he's already missed so much time to begin with, and now losing him again, it's very unfortunate. And, the Braves, like you mentioned, got off to a really slow start this season, starting the season 0-7, but they've been playing much better as of late. I think they're like 10-7 in their last 17 games or something like
6-4.
6-4. So, they've been playing better. So they're slowly but surely crawling back to 500 and above. But they're still a very injury-depleted team. And Spencer Strider is crucial to get healthy and join in that starting rotation with Chris Sale, Spencer Schwellenbach, and Reynaldo Lopez, just to name a few. So, it's important for the Braves to have Spencer Strider for most of this season. So if there's any positives you can look at from this, is that this is not a significant hamstring injury, and it's only April 24th. So there's plenty of baseball to be played. You just hope, though, that this doesn't become a recurring theme for Strider, throughout the season, where he needs to go down later on in the season, and he's gone for who knows how many weeks or maybe even months. So you hope that this is just a minor blip on the radar, that this doesn't keep persisting throughout the season and for the rest of his career, quite honestly. You don't want, pitchers to build the reputation of being injury prone. A lot of great pitchers nowadays are failing to live up to their full potential because of injuries. It's just become more and more frequent around the game, and you just hope Strider doesn't become a victim. So, we'll see what happens with Strider as the season goes on, but fortunately, this is not a significant injury, but you feel for the guy regardless, and hopefully this doesn't happen again later throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the rotation right now for the Braves, and Sale obviously has not gone off to a great start. I mean, you kind of were due for a little bit of regression from Chris after having an NL Cy Young season last year. So obviously he needs to be a little bit better. This is coming from a guy that absolutely loves him. But yeah, Strider being down, and then Ronaldo Lopez, you talked about him. He only had one start, and now he's on the 60-day IL. So he's obviously now down for a while.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at their overall depth chart right now. So right now, their current rotation, Ryan, is Sale, Spencer Strellenbach, Grant Holmes, who has pitched, I think, now for 5 starts, and then Bryce Elder, who's also pitched for them, and probably somebody in like the minors or something. So the Braves definitely are. They're 10-14, so like we talked about, they are playing better. But if the Braves kind of where they want to be and try to get themselves back in the playoff race, they just need to be healthy, and they need to have some guys kind of step up. So that's kind of the latest there. With those 2 injuries, like we talked about, hopefully Snell and Strider will be hopefully back ready to go, because baseball's back, and it's better than ever when both of those 2 guys are pitching, and they're pitching at their best. All right, now we're going to talk about another pitcher, and this specifically is something separately. Talk about a absolute fall from grace, Ryan. This is a type of pitcher that, in Triston McKenzie, which I think there are so many highly recruits looking at him and absolutely just loving and presenting the stuff. A young guy that I liked a lot. I think a lot of people was talking about the fastball in terms of the overall the stuff specifically from the fastball and some of his other off-speed pitches. However, the Guardians decided to DFA Triston McKenzie. McKenzie was kind of in the rotation, Ryan, for a lot of his career and his young career so far. But whether it was just him losing a lot of his command, he got sent down several times and tried to find it back. But they eventually had enough with him, and they decided to select the contract of righty Zach Kent from AAA Columbus to take in his place. So, yeah, I mean, McKenzie, between it was injuries, I'm looking at MLBRumors.com. He missed significant time in 2023 with a UCL injury that never wound up requiring surgery. And he struggled before and after a bunch of IL stints. So he obviously, outside of just kind of getting his reform back, he was completely hurt. So that obviously kind of hurt for him also. And yeah, just he back in 2022, the 24-year-old McKenzie had 191 innings, 1/3 of 2.96 ERA ball. So he obviously had a very, very good start. You know, we thought that maybe a breakout for him down the road was going to come, and it just kind of never happened. He didn't throw hard, so he was topping about 93 miles an hour. But he was able to do was basically generate a lot of swing and miss in his game. So he punched out 25.6% of his opponents and had a very, very good strikeout to walk ratio also. He only walked 5.9% of the guys specifically back in 2022. So the guy had the stuff. But between IL stints and other stuff, he just never kind of was able to get his reform back. So, you know, I don't know if anybody's going to take a flyer on him. I know that obviously, you know, your Yanks maybe with Matt Blake, maybe the pitching lab, or maybe the Red Sox possibly as like a back-end starter. I do think that there's so many teams, maybe like the Braves we just talked about, who are, you know, need maybe potentially a depth piece. I think that this could be a potential back-end piece for some team because, like I just talked about, Triston McKenzie kind of coming into his career. He's had the stuff in the past. Obviously, like I just talked about in 2022, it was one of his best best overall starts of his career. But between the IL stints and kind of going back and forth, he just never found it kind of since. So what's your overall reaction to Triston McKenzie being DFA'd by the Cleveland Guardians?
Oh, I can't really say that I'm surprised that he got DFA'd. McKenzie has really, really struggled these past couple of seasons, like you said, with injuries and inconsistent performances. His peak so far in his career was 2022. By far, that was the best season of his career, where he started 30 games for the Guardians that year. He only went 11-11, but he had an ERA of under 3. He had a 2.96 earned run average, so very good there, and 191 and a third innings pitched. And ultimately, McKenzie just never really reached the heights that the Guardians had for him or had hoped for him. Like you mentioned, that injury that he had in 2023. He only pitched 4 games that season. And like you mentioned, he basically missed that entire season with that UCL injury. And even though he didn't get surgery on it, you wonder if maybe that injury hindered him in the past couple of seasons. Last season in 2024, he only made 16 starts, had an ERA of 5.11, and he eventually lost his spot in the starting rotation for the Guards going into this season. He made 4 appearances this year in relief and had an ERA of 11.12. So it's been a rough go for Triston McKenzie in recent years, and the Guardians just had enough and said, all right, this guy's not helping us anymore, and they just decided to cut the cord with him. Now, McKenzie, he's only 27 years old, so, he's right in his prime. He definitely has some work to do, but I definitely think he'll be receiving some calls from several major league teams. The old saying, you can never have enough pitching, is true. And throughout the course of this season, many teams are going to deal with pitching problems. It's very rare for a team to go from opening day through the postseason without any question marks regarding starting pitching, relief pitching, whatever it may be. So I do think McKenzie's going to get some offers from a number of teams. I mean, like you mentioned, my Yankees could be one of them. The Yankees have had some question marks, obviously, with the starting pitching department. The Braves could maybe use McKenzie if they keep having all these injury problems, maybe even the Dodgers. So, I mean, McKenzie, I think, will definitely find a new home later on this year. When and where that is anybody's guess, because it could be, different possibilities. But yeah, McKenzie just never really got going with Cleveland, and it's kind of disappointing. He had some pretty good stuff, but he was too inconsistent, and he got hurt a lot, and it's just a shame that it ended the way it did.
We were talking about teams. What a team just came to mind is the overall place that it's a team in our division that basically turns a lot of guys into Cy Youngs, and that's Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, of course, this kind of screams potentially Tampa Bay Ray. I don't know why, but we'll have to see. But all along, Triston McKenzie, DFA'd by the Guardians after just inconsistencies, injuries from the last couple of years. So we're going to have to figure out in terms of what happens next to this pitcher here. But what's going to be next is going to be around the league stuff, and that is with the New York Mets, the other New York team foe from your Yanks, Ryan. And coming into this season, I think that we were pretty optimistic about the Mets. But the one thing about the Mets that we were very worried about was their rotation. And, we talked about the loss of Luis Severino, of course, Sean Manaea going down, Frankie Montas obviously going down, so a couple of their obviously the depth piece that they brought in and one of their top aces. But the Mets specifically, so far, so good. I know early on we talked about kind of as one of the most surprising teams, and they've pretty much kind of taken off ever since then, Ryan. They just swept the Philadelphia Phillies, so the Phillies are going to be one of the top teams in the NL. They had a come from behind walk-off win in their game yesterday to complete the sweep. And this is pretty much all coming along without one of their guys that they paid $800 million to in Juan Soto, who only has 3 homers. And I would say probably doesn't want to have the start that he has envisioned so far. He almost had his first homer at Citi Field against I think it was the Marlins that was called back specifically. He was rounding around first base, or it was the Marlins, or it was whoever they played before.
They were playing. I'm pretty sure I think it was the Marlins.
The Marlins. Okay, I'll have to take a look back up again. But yeah, the Mets are absolutely riding high right now. And I think they obviously have a 5-game lead in the NL East, the best record in baseball. I do think there's going to be some regression with the Mets coming in because, obviously you're going to ride the wave. They've obviously had absolutely fantastic attendances so far with the team. Oh, those are Cardinals. He almost had his first. Yeah, I was trying to remember the team. They swept against the Cardinals this past weekend, and then they swept the Phillies. They've only lost, Ryan, one game at home at Citi Field all year, and that was a game against the Marlins early on the season, in which Max Meyer completely just shut them down for 6-7 innings. But since then, they haven't lost there since. One of the biggest things about being a very, very good team is protecting your home field, and that's what the Mets have been doing so far. And I don't think they've lost since against the Phillies since last year's in the playoffs. So they've absolutely had their number. Francisco Lindor, Ryan, is now starting to take the cover off the ball. Him, the Phillies, I don't know what he has personally against them, but he absolutely just destroys them right now. And the bullpen, I mean, the bullpen has been absolutely lights out for the Mets. I know that obviously Edwin Diaz went down yesterday, but guys like Jose Butto, Max Kranick, a couple of their young guys, and they're just really, really clicking right now for the New York Mets. And the Mets really needed to have a start like this too, because Sean Manaea was one of the top guys last year that they really relied on, and just the fact that they were able to have their guys kind of step up. Guys like Clay Holmes has pitched a little bit better as of late. David Peterson's obviously pitched well. Kodai Senga's pitched well. So it's just the overall start that obviously surprises me. I knew that they were going to be a fine team, but the fact that they won 7 in a row with a 5-game lead in the NL East, I don't think that anybody really expected this.
Well, I had a feeling that the Mets were definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with this year. I just, like you said, didn't expect them to be off to this fast of a start so soon in the season. But like you mentioned, the Mets right now have just been playing terrific baseball. Like you mentioned, 18-7 on the season, the best records as of now in Major League Baseball. They've won 7 in a row, 9 of their last 11, just sweeping their division rival Phillies. And the big story when it comes to the Mets so far this season has been their pitching. It's been terrific. The biggest concern we had with this team going into this season has turned into their biggest strength. So go figure. They lead all Major League Baseball in team ERA with a 2.34 team earned run average. And like you mentioned, they have dominated at Citi Field so far this season, just one loss there. Incredible. And, a lot of guys are starting to click. After kind of a slow start to his season, Francisco Lindor has caught fire. He has been on a rampage. In his last 7 games, Lindor has 4 home runs and 8 RBIs. He had a 2 home run game against the Phillies this past week. He's hitting .467 in his last 7 games, and he's hitting .344 in his last 15, and has bumped up his numbers to .309 on the year, 5 home runs and 14 runs batted in. So Lindor, is picking up where he left off last year, and maybe even more so. He also had a walk-off home run against the I think it was against
the Cardinals.
The Cardinals on Friday.
First game. Yeah, Friday.
Last Friday night. To send Citi Field into a frenzy. I mean, when the Mets, get punched in the mouth, they punch you right back. They take no time because, they had a 1-run lead in the 9th inning, and, Brendan Donovan tied it for the Cardinals. And, I think maybe 2 pitches into the bottom of the 9th inning with Lindor leading off, he just sends one to the moon.
Yeah.
So, the Mets right now are looking like a very dangerous team, and they've already built a comfy 5-game lead in the National League East Division, making a big statement to the Braves and the Phillies, probably their 2 biggest threats in the NL East division this season. So if you're a Mets fan, you really can't complain about anything right now. I mean, other than maybe, you want to see more from Juan Soto, but Soto will be fine. He's going to pick it up. He will be joining Francisco Lindor in the production department relatively soon. But yeah, it's a fun time right now if you're a Mets fan, and we'll see if they're able to keep up, the great baseball that they've been playing. I expect some regression a little bit, like basically with any other team this year. Yeah. But you got to like what you see from the Mets if you're a Mets fan. And I think the Mets are for real. I definitely think that. I don't think last year was a fluke. I think they are a very good team. And for the Braves and the Phillies, they have their work cut out for them. So, I mean, the Phillies especially. I mean, the Phillies have had a very hard time with the Mets in recent months, really dating back to the postseason last year. They just have not looked good against the Mets at all. And, this weekend, backs that up. So right now, the Mets are the Phillies' daddy. And if they want to reverse that script, they're going to have to start winning some games against them. So it's still early, obviously. It's only April 24th, but yeah, look out baseball. The Mets right now hold baseball's best record, and we'll see where they go from here.
Yeah, and really quickly before we quick it over to around the league stuff, is just Mark Vientos, one of the top guys in the playoffs last year, really hasn't clicked yet. Juan Soto, like we talked about. The fact that, Ryan, that they're doing this right now and Juan Soto hasn't really clicked yet, when Juan Soto kind of gets going, specifically, which he will because he's one of the top players in baseball, without a doubt, his offense is just going to skyrocket, especially when it gets warmer out specifically, too. This is going to be a team that is going to be a force. And I know we didn't even talk about the Dodgers. I think that now, if the Mets specifically possibly can get a guy at the deadline, aka Sandy Alcantara potentially, I mean, they could be really, really good. They can take a team like the Dodgers to potentially 6 games max, possibly. I mean, I could really see that. Pete Alonso too, Ryan. I mean, he's right now playing for a potential extension potentially for the Mets right now. I know that currently after this year he could opt out and just get more money. Pete Alonso, after a very, very tough regular season last year, has been absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. His strikeout number has been way down this year, and he's just putting the ball in play, and he's hitting it with force. He's hitting it out back to opposite field, which he did earlier on in his career. When he's doing that, he's doing it really, really well, and he tied the game yesterday. So they're getting production from Alonso. Their bullpen's pitched well. Their starting rotations pitched well. And they're going to get reinforcements back, too. I mean, Francisco Alvarez, he's one of their top catchers. You know, obviously, he's been down for a while. You know, guys like Hayden Sengar, who, of course, we talked about in another episode from the Whole Foods situation. He's played a lot. Luis Torrens, he's a backup catcher. He's played a lot and played well, too. So it's just kind of like they're just kind of finding ways to win right now, and they don't have anybody really healthy, and they have guys coming up. So they're only just going to get better if you kind of look at this overall team right now.
Yeah, you touched on Alonso. That's a good point. I forgot about him. I want to quickly just tell you his numbers. Alonso right now is hitting .341 on the year, 6 home runs, 26 RBIs, OPS 1.121. So he's been tearing the cover off the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably within him and Judge. I mean, you know, they're probably going neck and neck right now when you kind of look at the OPSs. You know, between the two. So it's pretty incredible stuff. And, you know, we'll have to see in terms of where we go from here. Hitting for the Cycle is presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience, from playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators and communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/CGB Network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And now back to the show. Well, let's kind of go around the league. I think we're now, Ryan, at week 4 of the MLB
Week 4 of the 2025 season. Yep, we're about a month in.
That's insane. I feel like we just started. But I guess just that first month just kind of flies by, you know. So I'll take it to you really quick about your Yanks, because I know in the past I've kind of gone through it. But since you're the Yanks fan here, I'll let you take it away and kind of go through your team as of late.
Yeah, so you know the Yanks for the most part have been playing pretty well in recent days. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 15-10 overall right now. Hold first place in the American League East. Slim 1.5 game lead over your Red Sox and everybody else. And the Yankees are coming off of just finished up a road trip in Tampa at their spring training complex in Steinbrenner Field, where they took 3 out of 4. The one game they lost was egregious. Devin Williams imploded, blowing a 4-run lead in the 9th inning. I nearly threw my remote through my television set in disgust. The Yankees still driving me crazy. They still find new ways to drive me up a wall when they lose. And of course, they lose like that.
Yeah.
So yes, only they could lose like that. So you know but they still took 3 out of 4. The 4th game had a little bit of controversy where Aaron Judge hit a booming fly ball that went well out of Steinbrenner Field, and it went into the trees over. There's a parking lot between the left outfield wall, I think, and and the trees where, maybe not a parking lot, but a little space between the wall and the outfield and the trees where Aaron Judge hit the space ball.
Yeah.
This ball was destroyed, and it
Mhm.
looked that like it was a home run. And you know what? It was a home run if you looked at the replays,
Yeah.
well to the right side of the foul pole. But for some reason, Major League Baseball, when the umpires initially called this ball foul, so they so they called New York and asked them to take a look at this. But New York, for whatever reason, said this ball was foul. And much to the chagrin of Aaron Judge, the Yankees, and all the Yankee fans that were at Steinbrenner Field that afternoon, Aaron Boone eventually got tossed after airing his grievances. I don't know how that happens. I really don't know what the replay operation system people were looking at. I mean, I'm not just saying that because of a Yankee fan, obviously, but that was just ridiculous. And it was so majestic, this shot by Judge. I don't think I've ever seen a home run hit that far at Steinbrenner Field. And if that was hit at Yankee Stadium, that may have gone well up into the bleachers, maybe by the concourse area at Yankee Stadium. So it was just a gigantic shot by Aaron Judge, and it's just a shame that it was ruled a foul ball rather than a home run. But regardless, Yanks won that game behind the strong pitching performance of Max Fried, who's been sensational. He's turned into the ace that the Yankees have desperately needed. And the Yanks took 3 out of 4 at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. Then the Yanks went up to Cleveland for a rematch, an ALCS rematch against Cleveland. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Guardians. The Yankee offense has actually been pretty bad besides Aaron Judge, Paul Goldschmidt, and Ben Rice. Those 3 guys have been carrying the offense. But really, 6 of the 9 Yankee hitters have not done much this season. And a lot of finger pointing has been going to Anthony Volpe recently, and rightfully so. Volpe has just looked completely lost. He's looked worse now than he has had at any point in his major league career. And, he's striking out way more, and he's having a hard time hitting a fastball. So it's just very bizarre, and this is not what the Yankees needed, and it's obviously not what Anthony Volpe needs. So, many Yankee fans are calling for the Yankees to sit Volpe for a little bit, and I'm one of those people. I think he needs a reset. I think he just needs a couple of days off. The Yankees have an off day today. The Yankees come back home for a brief 3-game homestand against the Blue Jays this weekend. So, maybe give Volpe a day or two to breathe and try and fix his mechanics, because right now he's all out of whack. He's just flailing at pitches well out of the strike zone. He had a horrible at-bat a couple of nights ago against Cleveland where the Yankees were threatening to come back late in the game, and he just flailed like effortlessly like 20 feet outside the strike zone, like completely, like that right then and there told me that he has no idea what he's doing right now. So he really needs to sit down and figure it out. Jazz Chisholm is off to a terrible start. He's been a pain in the ass to watch. Some of his swings have been atrocious. He could also use a day off or two. Austin Wells has been struggling. Cody Bellinger has been a disappointment so far this season. So, a lot of guys in this lineup really need to step up. It can't just be a 3-man show or a 2-man show or a 1-man show. So, the Yankees have, fortunately for them, their starting pitching has gotten better. Carlos Rodon has started to pitch better recently. He's had back-to-back very good outings against Tampa and Cleveland. So, yeah, but, overall, the Yankees are in a good spot, obviously. It's so early in the season, but, yeah, they definitely need more contributions from guys.
Ryan, you never talked about one guy that I was thinking about. How about Trent Grisham? The guy specifically who's been absolutely going nuts. Just looking at his overall I don't know where he is right now currently in the stats.
He's on paternity leave, I believe.
Trent Grisham was kind of a journeyman outfielder, and he was really only coming in as a guy to play defense, and he's been absolutely fantastic. So how about give a little bit of Trent Grisham props, huh?
I will absolutely give some Trent Grisham props. He's been phenomenal. I've trusted him more than I've trusted Cody Bellinger so far this season. Grisham has never been known for his bat. He's always been a defense glove first guy, and he's never really been a good hitter. But this is probably the best stretch of offense he's ever had in his career.
Yeah,
he's been great. And, you hope that when he comes back after his paternity leave is up, he turns into he brings that dad power with him, and he continues to rake. We definitely are going to need Trent Grisham regardless for depth. So he can only help this team, I think, with his especially with his defense, because he's a great fielder. But what he's been doing on offense so far is just an added bonus. So I don't expect him to keep up this level of production throughout the course of the season, but I'll take it for what it is right now, and I can't complain about it.
Yeah, definitely. Before I go to my Red Sox, you talked about the struggles of some guys. Paul Goldschmidt obviously has been great. Ben Rice has obviously been great. As well as Cabrera has low-key been decent. I mean, he's 262 batting average right now in the 9-hole, so you can't really complain about him. Red Sox legend Pablo Reyes has not been great, though. 167. I know you weren't probably expecting much from him. Right now, Anthony Volpe's OPS is 680, which is just not good right now for a shortstop. Jason Dominguez, 234 batting average. You probably want to expect a little bit more out of Dominguez. 711 OPS. Cody Bellinger, he's riding a 527 OPS.
Yeah, Bellinger's been really bad at the beginning of the season.
The fact is, Ryan, I mean, you guys are still doing fine right now, 15-10. The division, obviously, I think we could talk about the division a little bit because, man, oh, man, there's some stuff in that division that we got to talk about. But the Yankees are still playing fine. And, they're obviously still hitting a lot of homers. They're getting decent pitching. And Max Fried, obviously, thank you for Max Fried, I guess, for you guys. So he's done great. Going to the Red Sox now. Red Sox have been doing a lot better. I know that obviously for a little stretch a couple weeks ago, they weren't playing good ball, but they're 7-3 in their last 10. They're 14-12, like Ryan, you mentioned. They're now in second place in the division. So in terms of their recap of how they've been playing, they played against the Chicago White Sox out of all teams, and the first series against them, they lost the series at Chicago. Total embarrassment. Don't want to talk about it. I'll keep it at that. They went to Tampa, like you guys went to Tampa. Tampa Bay actually played against the Red Sox, then played right against the Yankees, so crazy enough. The first game, we got our ass kicked 16-1. Don't want to talk about that game either. We were kind of on a bad stretch right there. But ever since then, that game after, 7-4, Alex Bregman, 5 for 5. Then he, of course, went on paternity leave because his wife was having a baby. So congrats to Alex there because he put on a great showing, 5 for 5, 2 homers. And that was his first time in his career. Alex Bregman went 5 for 5 in his career. Then the Red Sox the game after. So, of course, baseball's a funny sport. They gave up 16 runs in the first game, and then they shut the Rays out, the same team, in the final game. 1-0. Sean Newcomb, who wasn't great yesterday, but Sean Newcomb was great. And then they put it to the bullpen. Guys like Garrett Whitlock, Zach Kelly, and Justin Slayton shut down the door. And I think Chapman came in at the end, but everybody did their part. Sox took it to 2 out of 3 in the series there. Then they played the Marathon weekend series against the White Sox. The first game, the Red Sox finally broke the bats out against the White Sox. Thank God. Martin Perez got absolutely spanked. Trevor Story has been absolutely fantastic so far this year. 2 homers in that game. Sox win 10-3. But, of course, the Red Sox have to play close against the White Sox because that's what Red Sox teams do for some odd reason. The White Sox kept it close. The Red Sox were actually up on that Saturday game this past Saturday. It was 3-0. And then Zach Kelly comes in, and he walks a couple guys or somebody else. I don't know who it was. Luis Robert Jr. has been absolutely dreadful. He was one of the guys that I had who's not. Of course, though, it's an absolute moonshot to tie the game to make it top of the 7th. And then Triston Casas, who really, really got a slow start. I think starting to come around a little bit as of late here, which is great to see. Red Sox walk it off thanks to Casas in the bottom of the 10th. Red Sox take the first 2 games of the weekend series. And then the Red Sox, of course, they had to lose a game because they had to against the White Sox because that's it. That's what it is. I don't know why. But the Red Sox were up 4-2 in the bottom of the second. Willie Abreu had a 3-run homer in the bottom of the first. Tanner Houck, who's been kind of shaky so far this year, pitched really well against the White Sox on Sunday. So the Red Sox actually got a pretty good starting outings from all their guys. Hunter Dobbins, who is one of their young kids they brought up. 2 really good starts so far. I was actually at Dobbins' first game against the Cardinals, but Dobbins was fantastic in the first game. on Friday night, and then on Saturday it was Crochet. Crochet was doing Crochet stuff. Howard pitched well on Saturday, but the bullpen just fell apart. Liam Hendricks, congrats to Liam Hendricks. He, after a long hiatus in terms of what he was going through, Hendricks came in at the top of the 8th. Unfortunately, it wasn't expected. Hendricks just didn't have the stuff. I know that he was kind of struggling in spring training, but it gave up a homer in his debut against Andrew Vaughn, who has been absolutely dreadful for the White Sox. But Red Sox lose 8-4, just one of those tough ones. But Marathon Monday, it was an 11 o'clock game. I woke up, and I was thinking to myself, Ryan, the Red Sox have to take this series. You cannot split against the White Sox after just losing the previous series, and you'd be losing the season series to that team. You lost 4-3 to the season series to the White Sox. So, but thankfully, that wasn't the case. Walker Buehler was absolutely fantastic. Buehler has now had 3 good starts for the Sox. And, Christian Campbell, the Red Sox went up 4-1 in the bottom of the 3rd. But the Red Sox against the White Sox, for some odd reason all year, Ryan, they just never kind of tacked on runs. The White Sox have some decent young pitching. I give them credit for that. But the Red Sox, kind of similar to the first part of the season, they've kind of just struggled with cause on base. They've got a lot of hits, but really haven't been able to kind of cap on. And then top of the 8th inning, the marathon game, of course, because why not? That's a weird game. Andrew Benintendi, former Red Sox, against former Yankee Chapman. Benintendi takes a 100-mile-an-hour fastball out of the seats to make it a 4-2 game. Happy for Benny, but thankfully it didn't matter. Red Sox won 4-2. And then right now the Red Sox are playing the Mariners. The Mariners obviously had a pretty good season so far. The Tuesday game, Red Sox win 8-3. Great pitching outing from Brian Bayo, who came back. Congrats to Bayo. He's finally back. And then Bregman went 2 for 5. He led the way. He had an RBI triple. Hit a triple, an RBI triple, and an RBI double. Red Sox went 8-3. Red Sox, tough one yesterday. Sean Newcomb, you're probably a great guy, but I just don't want you in this rotation much longer. He just never gave the Red Sox a chance kind of early on. And then you put Josh Winkowski through 80 pitches yesterday. He just got called down to Worcester. Thank you for joining. See you later. I don't want to see Winkowski anymore. And they brought up Luis Guerrero today. Red Sox lose 8-5, and they have the rubber matchup today, Ryan. Talk about a matchup. Brian Wu against Garrett Crochet to complete this series of the Mariners. And then they go to play against actually the Guardians, who you guys just played this past weekend, and then they play the Blue Jays in Toronto. So the Red Sox, I think, are playing just fine baseball. They're 14-12, so that's that. Really quick, Ron, before we get to who's hot, who's not, what are some other teams that kind of look around? Right now, for me, the Chicago Cubs. Oh, my God. I just feel like with the Cubs, right, and I picked them to go to the World Series this year. They just took the 2 games from the Dodgers. Of course, that first game was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I feel like so far, Ryan, I don't know if you want to agree with me or not, the Cubs so far have had the most entertaining back-and-forth games that we've seen all season. They played against the Diamondbacks, where the Diamondbacks had 10 runs. I think it was in the 7th or 8th inning. Then the Cubs come back at Wrigley, and Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki. I mean, it's been just an incredible ride so far. So we talk about how great the Mets have been. Man, the Chicago Cubs are riding high right now.
Yeah, the Cubs have been wild, to say the least. Wild Cubs, basically, at this point. Like you mentioned, they've played some really wacky, wild baseball games, and they lead Major League Baseball in runs scored as a team. I'm just looking at Major League Baseball's hitting stats right now. So the Cubs, as a team, they've scored a total of 163 runs, by far the most in Major League Baseball so far this year.
Man.
And they also lead Major League Baseball in on-base percentage at 346, and they're second in slugging at 460, just 2 measly points behind the Yanks in that category. So, and they also are tied with the Yankees for first in OPS at 806. So their offense has been very, very good. Their pitching could use a little bit of work. They're 19th in team ERA at 4.17. But, they've been mostly carried by their offense so far, and so far it's worked. The Cubs, though, right now, they are playing some really good baseball, though. They're winning. They're 16-10 on the season. They lead the National League Central Division by 2.5 games. But yeah, their pitching definitely needs to step up. There's no doubt about that. They're not going to be able to win if you don't have at least decent starting pitching or relief pitching. And the Cubs, their offense has just been deadly. Kyle Tucker has been a gift from God for them, and
Gotta extend him, man.
Yeah, they definitely hit the jackpot with him. Who knows? Maybe if he continues to keep this up, the Cubs may be forced to give him a long-term contract because he's a free agent after this season. So the Cubs might need to break out their wallets relatively sooner rather than later because everybody's going to be coming for this guy. So, the Cubs have been entertaining to say the least. So they have stood out to me. Obviously, you brought them up. The Padres have also been playing well. They've kind of been, regressing a little bit. They're 5-5 in their last 10, but they are in first place in the National League West. They lead the charge at 17-8, so a game better than the Dodgers and the Giants, who are tied for second place in the National League West. That NL West, man, that could be an entertaining story this season. We'll see how these teams go moving forward. I think the Giants will fall off a little bit as the season goes on. I'm not totally sold on them just yet, but we'll see how things turn out. One team that has stood out to me in recent times that has been falling flat on their face are good friends, the division rival Baltimore Orioles.
Oh my God!
I said going into this season, this team did not do enough in the offseason. They needed to do more, and I do not trust their starting pitching. Case in point, this team has been abysmal recently. They've lost 3 in a row, and in their last 3 games that they've lost, they have been outscored by a combined score of 35-5. And that was because one of these games that they lost was against the Reds at Camden Yards. They lost this game on April 20th on Sunday, Easter Sunday. The Easter Bunny did not come to help the Orioles. Instead, it came to throw eggs at them. The fans at Oriole Park deserve to throw eggs at the Orioles for the way they played this game. They lost 24-2.
Oh God!
So the Orioles have been absolutely terrible recently, and I'm not going to say I'm surprised. I warned you. I told you that I did not like what they did this offseason.
Yeah.
I thought they needed to do much more. They needed to add more to their rotation, and they didn't. And you know what? They're facing the consequences. And in all honesty, I don't see the situation getting better for the Orioles anytime soon. I mean, I think, eventually, their hitting will start to come around a little bit more. But I just think this pitching is too dreadful to help this team out for its own good. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it also doesn't help, too, with the Orioles, where Zach Eflin, their supposed called ace, is currently injured. And then Grayson Rodriguez is their number 2. He's also injured. So, of course, you can make a case, well, there's some guys that are still injured. But even when they're healthy, Ryan, it doesn't look great as of right now. They're not hitting also, which is kind of a surprising thing as of so far right now. Charlie Martin, who was supposed to come in. I mean, the guy's been nothing short of disaster. He's 0-5 with a 10.89 ERA. I don't know what the Orioles thought of him, but they got him on the Chiefs, so I guess that's it. Trevor Rogers, who they brought in last year, a southpaw from Miami, he's, of course, hurt. Albert Suarez, he's also hurt. So they've been a little bit hurt by the injury bug, but yeah, they look awful right now. And I don't know what it is. I don't think they're also playing great in the field too. I think they've been kind of throwing a lot in terms of errors and stuff. So yeah, I mean, we talk about our AL, we talk about us and the Yanks, of course, we're playing a lot better. In Toronto, I think has been taking a little more of a step back. They went off to a great start. But they just got swept against the Astros, who have had a really, really tough start. And I just don't know about the Blue Jays this year. I really just don't. Tampa Bay is also another team. I don't think they were going to be great this year, but they're 4-6. Funny enough, actually, the last 10 for the last 3 teams in the AL East right now, the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Orioles are 4-6 in their last 10. So currently right now, the 2 teams that are right now leading are our teams. That's 7-3 in the last 10, and it's of course great when we're both at the top right now because it's been a while. So that's great to see. One team that's kind of a dud right now to me is the Minnesota Twins. The Minnesota Twins, I thought would be a little bit better. They're 9-15, and they're 5-5 in their last 10, so they have been playing a little better. But they literally had to squeeze out a Byron Buxton diving catch against the White Sox in the first game. Johan Duran has not been as sharp, at least from what I've kind of seen. He even was struggling against the Mets, I think, during their series. And that could be one team, Ryan, that I could really see as being a selling type of team at the overall division, just because, at the deadline, because I look at the rest of the division, the Tigers, the Guardians, and the Royals. I just don't see a way where the Minnesota Twins are going to be making the playoffs this year. And I think that you talk about the Orioles kind of regressing. I think that the Twins are going to be a team specifically that's going to be a team that just doesn't have enough this year.
Yeah, I don't think highly of the Twins at all. I think their contending window is closed. I think they're going to have to do a lot of selling at this deadline. And, like you mentioned, the AL Central, those three teams that you brought up, Detroit, Cleveland, and Kansas City, those are the teams that are going to be battling it out for the division title. So, yeah, I think that the Twins, their contending window is just about shut. I really don't think there's any hope for them this season.
All right, so we're almost out of time, so we're quickly into our last segment, and that is who's hot and who is not. So, Ryan, if you want to go first, I already kind of have my guys ready to go.
Me too.
So, how about you go first? Who's hot and who's not for the week 4 of the baseball season?
Okay, so who's hot? This might be a little anticlimactic for some, and many people would be calling me a Yankee bias guy. But, how can you deny this guy's not hot right now? Aaron Judge. The guy's hitting .415.
Yeah.
He's hitting .415. Mm-hmm. 7 home runs, 26 RBIs. His OPS, holy crap, 1.247.
Insane.
Yes, Aaron Judge is very good at baseball.
Yeah.
He is killing everybody. He is hitting everything he is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God, because without him, this team is not 15-10 and in first place in the AL East. So, Aaron Judge, he's hitting .415 on April 24th. He got off to a very slow start last year, and he won the MVP award. I don't know if Judge is going to hit 400 this year, but you know what? He could maybe win the Triple Crown possibly.
Yep.
That could be a possibility. But yeah, it's great to see Judge not slowing down. His birthday is actually coming up. He's turning 33 on April 26th. So happy early birthday to Aaron Judge.
Mm-hmm.
And he's already making a case to win his 3rd MVP award in his career, and that would be his 3rd in 4 years. And it's hard to argue against that right now. But yeah, Judge is ridiculous. He's absolutely ridiculous. So Judge is hot, and who's not? Jock Peterson of the Texas Rangers.
Oh God, that's a great choice.
What a freaking nightmare this guy has had. He hit a pinch hit double in the 9th inning against the Athletics on Wednesday night for the Rangers, and in a 5-2 Ranger loss to the A's in Sacramento. Before that double, he was 0 for his last 41. On the season,
that's impressive.
On the season, Jock Peterson, I might need a barf bag. He's hitting .068. .068 with a 256 OPS.
Yeah.
Holy Moses.
He was supposed to be a good ad for them, too. I don't exactly know what's going on there. I really don't.
It makes Chris Davis look like Mookie Betts.
Oh, God. Man, that's impressively bad. Wow. Yeah. So those are your two, right? So I got two specifically for who's hot, who's not. My two, so Aaron Judge, of course, I'll let it take it to you. Well, I'm going to give a little props to some guys in the National League. Brendan Donovan right now, in terms of average, he has a 356 average, a 392 OBP, a 533 slug. Donovan's going to be, I think, one of the most coveted names specifically on the trade deadline market. So if we're going to get a good, recruiting for at least a guy to take a look at, aka the Yankees have been kind of looking at Donovan for a while. So, just hint, Ryan. I don't know. But Brendan Donovan's been absolutely tearing off the cover of the ball. The Cardinals really, I don't think, are going to be a great team, but I think Donovan's going to be a great overall piece for them, and he's really showing off right now. Another guy is from the Brewers, Bryce Terrain, second baseman. So 2 second basemen I'm going to have for this week. And Bryce Terrain, he's our leadoff hitter for the Brewers. He's running a 350 average, a 385 OBP, and a 460 slug. So Terrain is obviously playing really, really well as of right now. So those are my two guys specifically that I'm probably not going to have a lot of, but I kind of went off the rails a little bit as my who's hot. Who's not? I mean, Jock Peterson, obviously. I'll give that one to you. But yeah, there's a couple guys I could really go for. I mean, I picked Luis Robert last week. But I guess Triston Casas was probably my who's not. I know he's hit a little bit better as of late, but Casas for a while was just lost at the plate. He just really was not playing. He really just wasn't hitting at all. So I mean, I hope he's breaking out of this because the Red Sox really, really need him in that lineup. So I'm gonna go with my guy Triston Casas as probably my who's not. We had a 171 batting average, Ryan, and they had to bring him down in like the seventh hole a couple times. Casas has really been a guy that they typically put a lot in the meat of the order, and he hasn't got the job done right now. But he is starting to hopefully turn things around. He said back-to-back days, back-to-back homers, so hopefully things for him will get a lot better. But that'll be it for episode 67 for Hitting for the Cycle. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure, of course, you follow us on all of our socials. We will see you guys next week for episode 68 for Hitting for the Cycle. So until next time, this has Ben Kruse alongside Ryan Touhey. We'll see you guys soon.